world, political journalism looks like this. On either side, you've got the parties, fighting for the attention of the press. And in the middle, you've got journalists, sorting through what's important and what's just partisan. This is called gatekeeping, and it's one of the most important things journalists do. Political operatives can spin whatever talking points they want, but ultimately it's the journalists who decide what's newsworthy enough to pay attention to. But that is in an ideal world, and we don't live in an ideal world.
This may come up as a shock to a lot of you, but I do have left-leaning friends. And the way I have them is that, well, number one, they're not like extremely far left. I mean, politics do not define their existence. And number two, I usually avoid talking about politics with them. I talk about other things. But because I do have left-wing friends, I was a little bit surprised to see that they were also defending Twitter account Libs of TikTok, which has been going through some very serious attacks by powerful organizations recently. And what I found interesting was that my left-leaning friends weren't defending this because they support free speech, because obviously it's not a value that left-wingers care about that much. No, they were defending it because the person that was operating the account was a woman. And I find this very interesting, and it really makes sense because after the media has drummed up this whole narrative that women are victims and we need more women in positions of power and we need more women to speak out and the online harassment is very wrong. After you keep drumming that for years, it's no surprise that a lot of people have internalized this message and they genuinely believe it. And while you do have like the more far left fringe activists that don't really believe in these things but use them as a tool to attack the opposition whenever they can, you actually have like people on the center left, more moderates, that are abhorred when they see the way that the account owner of Libs of TikTok has been treated. So first of all, what is Libs of TikTok? There's a lot of you who probably don't go on Twitter. I will not fault you for not knowing. Libs of TikTok is an account which does journalism. That's the only way I can describe it. It's 100% journalism and the proper way which journalism should be done. In other words, what Libs of TikTok is doing is they're going on the internet, usually on TikTok, but sometimes even on public Zoom calls. And they take clips of that and they show it to the public with zero editorial message. Like, it's up to you to make up your mind of what you are seeing. Now, there is a bias, of course, because it's called Libs of TikTok, so they're going to target left-wing activists specifically, but I don't see a problem in that, considering that there is nothing stopping a person from watching Libs of TikTok in the morning and then watching Right Wing Watch at night. Like, having a clear bias that is stated for the person that watches it, I don't see any unethical breaches. So what type of things are they showing? Well, here is a professor at the New Hampshire University in a public call, so they didn't obtain this information through hacking or illegal means. No, it's all open to the public. And the university professor, the authoritative source, is saying that it's ineffective to assume that just because a young person and an adult is having a sexual relationship, that should be predatory and criminal. And notice the lack of editorial guidance. It's not saying that they agree or they disagree with the professor. It's literally just, okay, this is what a professor is saying. Make up your own mind about it. Like, make up your own decisions. This is way better than CNN or Fox News. Like, CNN or Fox News actually tells you what to think. They actually editorialize. Here you just get a clip with the university professor saying this, and it's up to you. Maybe you agree with it. Hey, you know, if you agree with this, it means that you are educated. It means that you are smart, because this comes from the academia. It's a university professor. You pay taxes so that this university professor can have a job and educate the public. And as you can see, these posts are very popular. 2,794 retweets, 7,909 likes. And this is the same professor appearing in the mainstream media saying that minors can be enthusiastically involved in initiating these types of relationships. Again, maybe you agree. Maybe he is right. Libs of TikTok isn't saying. They're just putting out there, this is what this guy is saying, so that you as a parent can make a intellectual sound judgment if you want to send your child to that university or not. How is this different than other Twitter accounts who are unearthing racismus? Like some plumber at some company said a racist joke, and now people need to be made aware that he is working at that company so they don't do business there. How is it any different? It's literally the same thing. Look, another example. A Texas teacher is facing charges after allegedly broadcasting pornography for students during class. This is on Fox News. They're taking this from the news and they're putting it up there. 6,500 people want to see it. And that's the problem. That is why Libs of TikTok is a problem, because people are interested in it. And in order to save our democracy, which, by the way, our democracy stands for the liberal agenda at this point. Like, you can literally replace our democracy with the liberal agenda, and the sentence makes sense every single goddamn time. And in order to protect the liberal agenda, you need to choose what information people are allowed to see and what information people aren't allowed to see. You think that I'm kidding? Well, this is exactly what a Vox journalist by the name of Carlos Maza thinks that the most important job for a journalist is.
Political journalism looks like this. On either side, you've got the parties, fighting for the attention of the press. And in the middle, you've got journalists, sorting through what's important and what's just partisan bullshit. This is called gatekeeping, and it's one of the most important things journalists do. Political operatives can spin whatever talking points they want, but ultimately it's the journalists who decide what's newsworthy enough to pay attention to. But that is in an ideal world, and we don't live in an ideal world.
In other words, journalists need to be political operatives. They need to be apparatchiks. They need to prevent the public from having access to some information and make sure that the information that the public has access to needs to be correctly editorialized. That is interesting, and that explains why a lot of journalists were going after Libs of TikTok, because they were giving unfiltered information to the public without editorializing, and they were giving the heretical information. So Media Matters, which is a censorship organization, the concept of censoring means removing things that the public may find offensive. So in other words, if you want to see something, it's not up to you whether you see it or not. It's up to organizations like Media Matters if they decide you should be able to have access to. And they released not one, not two, but 4 attacks on Libs of TikTok. My favorite one being that the real victims in the Libs of TikTok discourse are the teachers and LGBTQ people harassed because of the account. So I just want you to understand, like, people who put their own information out there, out of their own volition, on the public display, and Libs of TikTok just takes it and puts it on their Twitter account without editorializing, without saying anything. It's just like, look what these people are saying. That is harassment according to Media Matters. However, despite the fact that Libs of TikTok got taken down, not once but twice, and they even had a Harvard University professor being very proud at the fact that they managed to take down this account for a little while, it wasn't enough. So now, Jeff Bezos' website sends journalist Taylor Lorenz to dox the person behind Libs of TikTok. And we're not talking like doxing as in power word real name. No, like full home address type of dox. Because I get it when sometimes it's required to drop the name of a person behind an anonymous account because it's important to the story that the public needs to know. So for example, let's say a very proeminent Christian account would be run by a Satanist. And the only way you can expose that is by naming the person and showing, hey, look, you know, this guy is grifting. Like, he's got like this big Christian account, but in reality, he's a Satanist and he only does it in order to steal money from you guys. Like, I understand that type of context, but there is absolutely no way you can justify giving the home address of this person unless you're being like the Stasi, unless you're trying to intimidate not just the person running Libs of TikTok, but anyone who would have similar ideas from doing anything like it. It's like, look, there is information out there that goes against the liberal agenda, and we want to make sure that you are not sharing it. Now, this is something that happens a lot on the internet. It's nothing new. You get the media joining forces in order to take down someone that's inconvenient. whether it's Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson or whomever, it has happened in the past. So this is not really shocking. But I think the reason that people really got fed up this time is because of the journalist who did it, Taylor Lorenz. Taylor Lorenz, a couple of months ago, went on MSNBC and literally pissed her eyes in front of the camera because she's getting mean tweets. And she considers that to be beyond the pale, that is harassment. She wants an internet where people can't do that to women. And she says that even having your name out there is similar to getting doxxed, and getting doxxed is like murder. So, you know, a lot of people were moved by that. I was touched by that. I was sitting in my bedroom, pissing my eyes as well. I was like, oh my God, what is happening to this lady in America, in one of the richest countries in the world? And Jeff Bezos' publication needs to stop. Needs to stop. Look, I was thinking about helping the poor kids next door who don't have clothes to put on their back, but like the story of Taylor Lorenz made me forget about the homeless and about the impoverished, and I need to focus on this white liberal woman and her problems, because I don't feel safe. Look, if she doesn't feel safe on the internet, no one feels safe. So I was really moved, and now to see that this lady herself is not only sending harassment, but is also doxing another woman, well, my brain just can't function anymore. It short circuits. And it's bewildering. I can't even. Like, my mouth was open and I was trying to gasp for breath, trying to understand what is unfolding in front of my very eyes. Like, how can this person who was a beacon, a champion of women's rights on the internet, do the most vile thing ever? And I just don't know what to think, because I used to use Jeff Bezos' publication to tell me what to think, but now I am so confused, frightened, and alone. Please give me money on my Subscribestar to help me get through this difficult time in my life. So that is why a lot of people are making a big fuss over this. But, and this is even more interesting, okay? Fox News followed the money. Like, apparently, according to Tucker Carlson, there is no way that she herself has managed to figure out the identity or the address of the person behind Libs of TikTok. So he tried to follow who paid her, and apparently, if you follow down the money, according to Fox News, it's the German government. Like, not a German company. No. Like, the German government itself has paid for an organization in order to track down and silence hate speech from the right. So not hate speech from everywhere. No, just the right. All right? Now, why this is fascinating is that obviously now people are laughing this off and they're like, oh my God, like Tucker Carlson is like Alex Jones. Even though like this information is public, the way he followed the money is by looking at their website and finding out who finances them. It's public information. But I want to read you something very interesting from Germany. More exactly from Karl Lauterbach, which is the health minister of Germany, who posted something and then immediately deleted it, realizing, oh snap, maybe I shouldn't have said this out loud. For Twitter Deutschland, it would be a massive loss of credibility if Elon Musk bought Twitter. The commercialization of the internet also endangers democracy. In other words, it endangers the liberal agenda. Because trust in the independence of news is dwindling. So I just want you to understand this, right? Like, why is he against Elon Musk buying Twitter? Because Elon Musk says he wants free speech back on Twitter. When he talks about the commercialization of the internet, it's already commercialized. BlackRock and the Vanguard company owns Twitter. Like, they own stock in Twitter. How is that not the commercialization of the internet? But I guess if a bank owns it, if a hedge fund owns it, that is for democracy. But if someone else owns it, that is not for democracy. And then, of course, you know, because trust in the independence of news is dwindling, nothing spells trust more than someone censoring what you're allowed to see and not. You know, doing what cults do. Like, if you look at a cult, the first thing they do is, like, they try to control who you get to speak. What places you're allowed to get your news from. Kind of like a authoritarian state does, you know, kind of like Nazi Germany used to do, like, in order to make sure that people trust the press, they would have a censorship apparatus to make sure that only the correct news gets to the people. Kind of like what Soviet Russia did, or any other dictatorship. That's why America used to consider that they have freedom, because literally you have the freedom of the press. You can publish lies if you want. But I want to point out that the way to combat lies is with good information. Good, accurate, and timely information. That's how you combat lies. Anyone that says, no, the way to combat lies is to censor, they don't care about lying. They only care about controlling what people get to think. And, it's not surprising to me that it's the German government that's back there. And by the way, I'm not saying that the German government is trying to censor Libs of TikTok. Probably not. They probably don't do that, but like what they do is like they are funding organizations that are made by the members who used to work at social media like Twitter, and their goal is to censor any type of speech that goes against the left by using whatever resources and means they have available. I mean, you can't tell me that Libs of TikTok getting 4 attacks within the last 2 weeks is not organized. You can't tell me that Joe Rogan getting so much hurt coming out almost at the exact same time is not organized. Or the people that are attacking Tucker Carlson or Steven Crowder, like, notice how they choose a target, and then there's like 10 or 15 articles that just happen to come out. It's very interesting. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.